Hello Stampers, this is Jenny Day back for another video tutorial of another idea to share with you. Have you ever missed the designer series fabric that Stampin' Up used to have? Well, I know I do. I was looking through the catalog and wished I could work with some more fabric on my cards, but we can still do that with our customers and ourselves if we just have a few things available. And I'm going to show you today how easy it is to take a piece of muslin fabric. You just get it at a fabric store and make sure you wash it really good, dry it. It is really soft and it is really wrinkly, so you could leave it that way or you could iron it. I found that stamping on it was a lot easier when it was pressed. But you could stamp on really any fabric, any cottons. But I love the look of muslin. It does have a vintage look, but I'll show you a couple of examples of a vintage and not so vintage that you could come up with. So before I show you the rest of that, I'm going to show you the card we're going to make today. And I really was inspired by a card I saw on Stampin' Up website. It had layers, and but I found that I didn't have all the dies that was mentioned on the website, and I had a piece of fabric and I had some punches, and I thought I could come up with something similar. So here's how I made this card, and the main attraction being the fabric in the background. Now first we're going to show you how to stamp on this muslin. I'll put the card aside for now. I cut my muslin in a strip, just about, I think that's almost a inch and a half, I should say. And I think that if we use the big background stamps, we get a lot of use out of them, because if we don't have designer series paper or we don't have designer series fabric, we can make our own with these large stamps. So I picked soft suede I'll show you an example. Bring the pad to the big large stamp that's in Francais, is what this is. And we are going to just, one tip before I stamp this, make sure you re-ink with your little bottle of ink your stamp pad, because you need it really juicy for the fabric to soak up the ink. So now with that in mind, I'll just show you how easy it is. Maybe I'll stand up to put more pressure on it. And we'll do the big reveal. It's just beautiful. See how that came out? And then it doesn't have to be perfect to line it up. It could be overlapping a little bit. You could have a space in between. But once you let it dry, you do have to let it dry just for a little while, because the ink is still wet. And to give it the vintage look, I took my sponge and just sponge a little bit over the fabric, and then you have a weathered look for that. Now when you're done with these strips of fabric, okay, I took a piece of cardstock and just made myself a little spool, so that you could spend an hour doing this and come up with many spools. Put them in your drawer, maybe organized this way in your drawer, and whenever you need any kind of card, you want some texture and you don't have any fabric, you already got some already made. That is my favorite tip of the day, I think. Also, another thing you could do with it is, this is cut out, you probably recognize the shape, with the tag die. So that's really a good idea too. You can use this fabric with the dies. So let's get started on the card. So I just took a piece of basic, very vanilla cardstock, and I used a few punches, but I went ahead and started with this border punch, and I'll just finish it off. And then very quickly, I'm going to sponge around the edges, because that's really what they do with the vintage look. And do on the very bottom where the punch is, gives it really a pretty look. Really, that's all there is to the base. So we're done with that. Now I cut a strip of my fabric and I put 4 large glue dots on the back so that it'll stay in place. Okay, wait a minute. So I'm not going to glue it on yet because I remember now to be able to tie a ribbon around it, we're going to take old olive, we punched it with a lace punch, and then we have the pinking shears in the cherry cobbler. So then to overlap them, I am just going to adhere them. Oh, let's see, you could do it either way. This one I'm going to glue this way, the other one I did the other way. Then I'm going to go ahead. It'll glue just fine with regular glue on the fabric. There. But then I have a piece of organza ribbon, and this is what I was saying, to not glue it on yet, because the fabric needs a little bit of stability, and that cardstock you glue down gives it that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a basic knot. There we go. It's really, really pretty. And then glue it down to your cardstock. So it's glued, and you know what's really nice is seeing all these fabrics and frills and frayed edges. Really gives it that look you want. So go ahead and leave it this way without cutting it. And I even took the other card and I just did it by hand around the edges and made that look really nice there. And then this card has one of our clay creations. We have buttons and we have roses. I just keep mine in this little container here. And then here's an idea. I just took and dried this. This one I'm going to use a rose. So I pressed it onto my stamp pad, but it wasn't colored very well. So I took a aqua painter and filled the rest in, and it really was that simple. It looks really pretty, and it's nice and dry. So what we're going to do is we're just going to adhere the ribbon so it stays in place. And then we'll trim the bow. Just so pretty. You can make a card in just minutes, especially making your own fabric. So see, we're that far. Now with the rose, I found that using a large glue dot is best. It doesn't really want to stick to the clay, so I'll just stick it to the fabric. And then I'll tuck it up under there and it will stay. And there we go with the rose. We do have a sentiment which comes from the banner greeting set, and I picked Thankful for You. And I'm just going to use that same soft suede. I think I only used 2 colors in this entire card. Stamp that, and then, as they say in the stamping world, give it a little fussy cut, just quickly. Such a nice little saying here that comes together really fast. Okay, and then we're just going to glue it right so it comes right out of where the bow is. And that's it. We made that card within minutes, and we made our own designer series fabric. And it's fun to play with. I'm just having a lot of fun. Here's an example of where I used the top note die, and I used just stamped flowers here. Now this gives a more of a shabby chic look, but the more you ink your pads, the brighter your design is going to be on your fabric. You can make cards that aren't just vintage or shabby chic. The possibilities will be endless.